All right, to speak more about the much anticipated US election, let's now welcome a senior research fellow at Center of Africa Diplomacy and Leadership at the University of Johannesburg, Dr. Oscar van Heerden. Dr. van Heerden, a very good afternoon to you and thank you so much for your time. So it was just a week to go before these elections and polling already giving a glimpse of a highly tight race between Harris and Trump. Understanding the Electoral College and exactly what's at stake here is key. What for you has stood out ahead of this race, especially as far as the battleground states are concerned?
Yeah, thanks, Renati. You know, the truth of the matter is because the pollsters tell us this is going to be a very tight race. I do think it's important to note that the last time the pollsters said it's a very close race with Hillary Clinton and so on, and then we found that Trump actually won. You know, there was a popular vote, as you say, that he did not get, but he managed to get the Electoral College. I suspect we're seeing a similar trend where people are not necessarily being honest to the pollsters. You know, it's not a lot of people want to admit that they are going to vote for Trump, but I do think that at the end of the day, that is yet again going to be an advantage for him.
And I mean, just talking about not a lot of people wanting to admit that they're going to be voting for Trump, the Black community has also come out there very strongly in terms of, you know, who do they want to vote for in this particular race. But also the polls are starting to show a major gender divide in this particular race, with more men apparently wanting and preferring Trump and more women preferring Harris for obvious reasons. But just talk to us about that dynamism then in that decision making. I mean, we're talking about over 187 million people potentially going to the polls, you know, next week.
Yeah, I think we can already conclude that there's going to be a record turnout in this election. It's a very tight election, but you're right. You know, indicators are that lots of women are supporting Kamala Harris. Lots of men are supporting Trump. A lot of Black African American men supporting Trump. But I do want to say, you know, with regards to these stereotypes, I think people are not necessarily going to be issue-based. They are going to be issue-based and not necessarily in terms of these identity politics. You look at a state like Michigan, which predominantly has Muslims, Arabs, and I don't think they're necessarily going to vote for Trump because they feel that he is going to be very supportive of Israel. Instead, they are going to look at a myriad of issues. And I suspect you're going to have a situation like we had in our elections, Unati, where we thought a lot of Muslims in the Western Cape would vote for the ANC because of the ICJ case against Israel, but they continued voting for the DA because they were looking at issues bigger than just being a Muslim. And I think the same is going to happen in Michigan, where people are going to talk about cost of living, about employment, about immigration, and not just about one issue.
And I want to talk about, you know, just some of the policies that have come out, particularly as they were campaigning and in their rallies. One of the closer policy I can think of from an international front that they are not too, you know, dissimilar in is immigration question. Just talk to us a little bit about some of the contentious policies then that have come out during this rally.
Well, you know, the truth is that the Trump campaign and Trump himself are very much against illegal immigrants. They have no time for illegal immigrants. As far as he's concerned, they are going to be buzzed back across the border. He wants tighter border control. And minorities, Hispanics and others, Puerto Ricans, Costa Ricans, etc., they are also not going to be issue-based as far as I can see. They take various exception to the fact that there are so many illegal immigrants in the southern states in particular. And Kamala Harris is being blamed for this as far back as when she was a district attorney, being pro-immigration and allowing people to come in and so on. So both sides are trying to capitalize on the issue. I think that a lot of people, like in South Africa, see illegal immigrants as a problem because they wrongly rightly or wrongly, think that they're here to take the jobs and so on and so forth. And I think that Trump is going to be leading, I suspect, in that regard.
And I mean, the reason I use the word similar there is that, Harris is, of course, always been very cautious to call for engagement, particularly with the neighboring countries of the U.S. in as far as the border control measures are concerned. But let's talk now about foreign policy. We know, of course, that, former U.S. president, or while he is still until a new president comes to the fore, Biden has always been an expert in foreign policy, just looking at his track record. But where do you place both Trump and Harris in as far as this is concerned? Because there is, of course, the Ukraine-Russia war, and there's the Middle East question too that's currently high on their agendas.
Look, I mean, it's obviously a very sensitive issue for people in the United States. A lot of people feel, and Trump is using this and exploiting the fact that the Ukraine war in particular is an unnecessary war. That money that Biden-Harris has been making available to Zelensky could easily have assisted people in the United States. We see, for example, there not being enough money after the hurricane created havoc, and Trump immediately jumped and said monies that are going to unnecessary wars between Russia and Ukraine could have been used on locals, Americans, and I think he's finding resonance with that. People also feel that the war in Gaza, the genocide, there's a lot of people that are anti that genocide, of course, anti-Israel, but the Jewish lobby is very strong. I would argue they are supporting Trump. Trump has always been very supportive of the Israeli government. And so when it comes to Harris, if she wins, both wars will probably continue, and we don't see the end to it. With Trump, you are likely to see an end to the Russia-Ukraine war, but an intensification of the genocide against the Palestinians.
Interesting times there. Thank you so much, Dr. van Heerden, for, of course, your analysis. We do appreciate it. A senior research fellow at the Center of Africa Diplomacy and Leadership at the University of Johannesburg, Dr. Oscar van Heerden.